Spend your time in the main squat and hip hinge variations and you will develop an amazing set of glutes, especially paired with obviously adequate nutrition and rest. Alright guys, we're back with another tutorial video, and one that's very critical, and we're talking about glutes, right? Everyone wants glutes, especially women. They're all about the glutes. Now, we're going to be going through one of the main hip hinge movements to promote glute development and size. First of all, there's a million ways to train the glutes. There's all different variations, but once again, we want to keep it simple, we want to keep it effective, and we want to dispel all the myths. So, the biggest myths about the glutes is that you just have to train them through all of these, what we call very specific variations, which don't actually add a lot of volume. So for example, they might be using bands, they might be using cables, doing all sorts of variations from weird angles, and although they do have merit in a time and place, if you stick to the broad strokes, you're going to get a lot more return on investment and you're going to get a lot more development. So once again, especially for the ladies and the female viewers, don't overcomplicate it. Don't waste your time. Spend your time in the main squat and hip hinge variations and you will develop an amazing set of glutes, especially paired with obviously adequate nutrition and rest. And the big thing as well is about training that variation fairly close to failure with proper form. So I've got Bree here today and we're going to show you exactly how to do that. So first of all, the key points, guys, we've talked about this, we always mention it, rib cage over the pelvis. So with females, they've generally got great mobility through the spine, so they can get into positions of extension really well, and they can get into positions of flexion really well. Now what we want to do is keep the spine neutral. So when we say neutral, it's kind of happiest as it is, unless you've got a massive discrepancy. So again, we've got the cervical, we've got the thoracic, and then we've got the lumbar. Now, when we're doing a hip hinge, what I see most of the time going wrong with females is that they start doing flexion extension from the hips, right? And it's as if they're in like an R&B kind of class. Exactly, right? And that is not exactly what we're trying to work here. We're trying to make sure that we're hinging from the hips, we're keeping the spine neutral, and we're activating the main muscle that you guys want, the glutes, right? Glute maximus, glute minimus, glute medius, and there's obviously other little smaller muscles, but they're the main ones we're going to develop. So, Bree's going to show us this barbell hip thrust. Now, when you're going to set this up, you want to make sure that you've got a surface which is stable. You want to make sure you're not going to slide. You can do this off a higher or a lower surface, or box if you will. The main thing is start with something that's going to be adequate to your height. You want to move through the fullest range of motion. So when we talk about deadlifts and squats, where possible, depending on your skill, start with the thing that you can do the most based on your skill, or the variation I should say, that's going to give you the greatest return on investment. Now, once the shoulder blades are on or somewhat on the pad, because we don't want to be too high or low, and again, you might adjust this depending on your height, you want to make sure that everything is stacked and parallel. So the hips are aligned with the knees, are aligned with the ankles, as you can see. Bree's got her feet back, so when she comes up, and this bar is up as high as it can go, her knees are going to be mainly over, as we can see, the heels. Now, yes, we could have them in different positions, but if her feet are forward, we're not stacking the joints, we're not maximally going to load the actual muscle groups here. Now, as we can see, the hips are tucked, the rib cage is down, and look what her head's doing. She's looking straight between the knees. She's not flinging her head back. She's not going to stress the neck. She's making sure, again, she's trying to bring her hips towards the bar. The bar is headed up towards the ceiling, and there's a maximum peak contraction on the hamstrings and the glutes at the top. The core is doing a lot of work here as well. So this is what we talk about, isometric conditioning through the core, and she's stable. She's gripping the bar. Ladies, use a good pad as Bree's got here. You will condition to it. You might get a bit of discomfort over time, but that is going to keep you safe. Okay? So again, it's control. She's stopping it every time. She's not bouncing on it. She's not swinging on it. Controlling on the way down, activating on the way up. So the muscles are on throughout the movement, coming to a dead stop and maximum contraction at the top. You can think about this movement a bit like a horizontal deadlift with a bit of knee flexion. Perfect. So there we go. A great example of the glute hip thrust, the barbell, if you like, hip thrust. We are developing the glutes. Again, you've got machines, you've got glute bridge variations, right? You've got squat variations. What you want to do, to reiterate, to develop the glutes maximally, is we want to make sure that we're using adequate mainstream hip hinge and squat variations. So Don't get caught up in the minutia. Don't get caught up with the bullshit of social media, guys. If you've got any questions, ask myself, ask Bree. We coach people every day. We're living it, we're breathing it. We're getting real results for real people like you. And of course, if you've got any questions or queries, let us know. Let me know what you want to see next. If you want to see more of these, check the highlight reel in my story. Make sure you check out Bree's page. And of course, for more information, make sure you swipe up, and we'll see you next time.